Hello everyone. What would you do if you thought you were alone, but weren't? Tonight, you'll hear 3 true horror stories. A man stalked during a night shift at a pizza shop. A delivery driver lured deep into the woods. And an IT tech who finds out he's not the only one inside a locked data center. Each of them faced the same chilling truth. Someone was already there. Would you run, freeze, or ignore it until it's too late? Let me know in the comments. Now turn down the lights and let's begin. I was 26 when I started working the overnight shift at a rundown little place called Marlowe's Pizza, tucked away in the quiet town of Clearview, Oregon. It wasn't exactly 5-star dining half, the ovens barely worked, and the crust always came out like cardboard, but it was open 24/7, and that made it a magnet for drunk college kids and night owls looking for greasy comfort food. And the best part? I worked alone. No annoying coworkers, no boss breathing down my neck. Just me, some old sauce-stained counters, and the occasional late-night stoner craving garlic knots. This Tuesday night felt like every other. I clocked in at 9 p.m., relieved the day manager, and got to work restocking a few things in the back. Orders trickled in until around midnight, and then total silence. No phone calls. No walk-ins. Just me, the hum of the refrigerator, and the soft buzz of my phone screen lighting up my face in the dark kitchen. Then, at 1:04 a.m., the bell above the front door chimed. I paused. Finally, someone. I got up, walked around the corner toward the counter, and stopped cold. There was no one there. Not a soul. I stepped forward slowly, peeking out the glass door. The parking lot was empty. The sidewalk, bare. Just the soft glow of a flickering streetlight outside, painting long shadows across the linoleum. I let out a nervous chuckle. Guess I'm hearing things, I muttered, and turned back to the kitchen. 15 minutes later, again, the bell. This time, I hadn't even looked at my phone. I knew I heard it. I rushed out, faster this time. Same scene, still no one. But now, the air felt heavier. Still, like something had changed in the room and I wasn't alone. I stepped outside, scanned the lot. Nothing. Not even a raccoon or a stray cat. Just stillness. I stood there for a while, heart thumping in my chest, then went back in. But that strange feeling? It didn't leave. If anything, it grew, like something, or someone, was watching me from somewhere just out of sight. 2:45 a.m. That bell rang again. I didn't move this time. I just sat there in the kitchen, phone still in my hand, but my thumb frozen above the screen. I stared at the doorway like it was going to breathe. Hello? I called out, voice cautious. Anyone there? Silence. Not even the hum of the fridge now. Just the eerie kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. I stayed seated, waiting. 1 minute. Then 5. The bell didn't ring again. Maybe it was a sensor issue. Maybe a wind gust. Or maybe someone had been slipping in and out, just fast enough to avoid being seen. Thought sent chills creeping across my skin. I wasn't scared exactly, but my instincts were starting to scream that something wasn't right. Still, I stayed in the kitchen. Didn't check the door, didn't even peek outside. I figured, whatever game someone was playing, I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. No more sounds, no footsteps, no bell. Just that suffocating stillness. I thought I was finally in the clear. I even managed to laugh at myself, chalking it all up to nerves and late-night paranoia. After all, I'd pulled a dozen shifts like this. Nothing ever happened. Why would tonight be any different? At 4 a.m., I stood up to start prepping the register for the morning shift, and that's when everything changed. I was halfway through counting the drawer when it hit me. That same pressure, like something standing inches behind me, breathing without a sound. I turned around. There he was, a man, or what looked like one, just 6 feet away. He wore torn black clothes, dirty from the road. A hood draped low over his face, but I could see just enough his eyes. Red, wild, vacant, like there was no soul behind them. In his left hand, Glinting under the dim lights was a knife. Long, sharp, gripped so tightly his knuckles looked bone white. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just watched me. Every instinct screamed, "Get out. Get out now." "Listen," I said carefully, raising my voice. "You can take the money, all right? I won't call anyone. Just, please let me leave." He stayed still. No reaction. That was the worst part. It wasn't rage. It wasn't panic. It was emptiness. I glanced at the exit. To run for it, I'd have to go toward him around the counter and past his reach. He could grab me. Worse. So I made a split-second choice. I jumped. Threw myself over the counter. Hit the floor hard. Pain shot through my knees, but adrenaline pushed me up. He screamed a guttural, inhuman sound and lunged. I tore through the front door, heart pounding out of my chest, the echo of his footsteps pounding right behind me. I didn't look back. Not once. I ran straight past my car. He was too close. If I fumbled with my keys, I was dead. So I sprinted for the main road, lungs burning, legs shaking, heart trying to claw its way out of my chest. Somewhere along the way, the footsteps stopped, but I didn't. Not until I reached the street and collapsed by a street lamp, jabbing at my phone to call 911. The dispatcher kept asking me questions, my name, my location, but all I could say was, "He's in the shop. He's still in there. Please hurry." The police arrived in under 5 minutes, but he was gone. Back door wide open, kitchen trashed. Sauce and cheese smeared across the walls like some kind of sick joke. And my car? Deep gashes were scratched along the side from his knife. They never caught him. Never even identified him. What scared me most was the timeline. The cops said, based on the mess and backdoor tracks, he was probably already inside when I first heard the bell. That means for over an hour he might have been watching me, crouched behind the counter, in some dark corner, waiting for the perfect moment. I quit the job a week later. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't walk past a window without closing the blinds. Every time I hear a door chime now, my heart stops. I don't know who he was. I don't know why he came after me. But I do know one thing. He wasn't just trying to rob me. He wanted me scared, cornered, alone. And for at least one long hour, he was right there. It was a quiet Saturday night in Silver Pine, the kind of quiet that made the trees feel closer than they actually were. Ethan Brooks, 28, had just wrapped up his 8th delivery of the evening. His phone buzzed another order, nearly $20, just 15 minutes outside town. The money was too good to pass up. He accepted. The GPS guided him away from the town's warm streetlights and into the back roads. The pavement turned to gravel. The trees thickened on either side. A faded wooden sign creaked in the breeze. Ash Grove Forest Preserve. Ethan frowned. "Didn't think this place had houses," he muttered. He double-checked the address. It was right. The pin dropped deep into the preserve. He kept driving, a little slower now. The road narrowed, winding through trees until it finally opened into a wide, deserted dirt lot. No houses, no cabins, no people. Just a trailhead sign and the faint sound of rustling leaves. "This can't be it," he whispered, pulling into a spot and putting the car in park. Then his phone rang. A voice answered. Deep. Gravelly. Wrong. "Hey, you parked? Just walk a little in. You'll see the fire soon." Ethan's hand froze on the steering wheel. Something felt off. But $20 was $20. It was a quiet Saturday night in Silver Pine. The kind of quiet that made the trees feel closer than they actually were. Ethan Brooks, 28, had just wrapped up his 8th delivery of the evening. His phone buzzed another order, nearly $20, just 15 minutes outside town. The money was too good to pass up. He accepted. The GPS guided him away from the town's warm streetlights and into the back roads. The pavement turned to gravel. The trees thickened on either side. A faded wooden sign creaked in the breeze. Ash Grove Forest Preserve. Ethan frowned. "Didn't think this place had houses," he muttered. He double-checked the address. It was right. The pin dropped deep into the preserve. He kept driving, a little slower now. The road narrowed, winding through trees until it finally opened into a wide, deserted dirt lot. No houses, no cabins, no people, just a trailhead sign and the faint sound of rustling leaves. "This can't be it," he whispered, pulling into a spot and putting the car in park. Then his phone rang. A voice answered. Deep, gravelly. "Wrong." "Hey, you parked? Just walk a little in. You'll see the fire soon." Ethan's hand froze on the steering wheel. Something felt off. But $20 was $20. Ethan stepped out of his car and clicked on the flashlight app. The beam was weak, barely cutting through the thick woods ahead. Still, he followed the narrow dirt path, boots crunching against fallen leaves and twigs. It was dead silent. No wind, no crickets, just the sound of his own breathing and footsteps. A few hundred feet in, he spotted it. A flicker of orange light, dancing just beyond the trees. But something felt off. There were no voices, no laughter, no tents or gear. Just a small campfire burning in the middle of nowhere. He slowed down, eyes scanning the shadows. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. Just the crackle of the fire. He stepped closer. Still no one. Ethan's stomach turned. He was holding a stranger's food, standing alone in the woods, next to a fire that shouldn't be burning, in a place that should have been closed. And then a branch snapped behind him. Ethan stood frozen, eyes locked on the fire. No sleeping bags, no backpacks, no beer cans, or lawn chairs. Not a single trace of anyone being there, just flames flickering quietly in the middle of the woods. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. He took a slow step back, his instincts screaming at him now. That's when he heard it. Snap. A clean, deliberate break of a branch from somewhere behind the trees. He spun around, flashlight shaking in his hand, trying to find the source. "Hey, I've got your order," he called out, voice cracking. Nothing. Only the fire crackling behind him, and something unseen in the darkness ahead. Another sound rustling, low and slow, like someone trying not to be heard but failing. His chest tightened. Ethan set the food bag down next to the fire, voice barely steady. "I'll just leave this here." And as he turned to leave, someone stepped into view. A figure emerged from the trees, moving slow but deliberate. Tall, broad-shouldered, wild, unkempt hair and a thick beard that swallowed half his face. His clothes were ragged, boots caked with mud. It was him, the voice from the phone. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was forced, twitching at the corners like he was struggling to remember how to look human. "You forgot your cash," he rasped, voice as rough as gravel. "Come get it." He took a step closer. Ethan backed up instinctively, his heart pounding against his ribs. Every nerve in his body screamed to run, but his legs wouldn't move. Another step closer. The man's hand twitched at his side empty, but the movement made Ethan's skin crawl. "I'm good, man," Ethan stammered, voice barely above a whisper. Then he did the only thing he could. He dropped the food at his feet, turned, and ran hard, deeper into the night, the fire's glow vanishing behind him. Ethan broke through the trees, lungs screaming for air, shoes slipping on loose dirt as he sprinted for his car. He could hear them footsteps, heavy, gaining. He reached the lot, fumbled with his keys, dove into the driver's seat, and slammed the door shut. But when his headlights flicked on, his heart dropped. The exit was chained shut. Two thick stone pillars stood on either side of the road, with a rusted chain now looped between them. That chain wasn't there before. His hands trembled on the wheel as the footsteps grew louder. No time to think. He floored the gas and swerved hard left, onto the grass. The ditch was close, too close. One bad angle, and he'd be stuck. The car bounced, scraping over rocks, tires gripping mud. The chain scraped past the passenger mirror by inches. Then he was out, back on the gravel road. But he didn't stop. He didn't dare look back. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He kept every light in his apartment on, curtains drawn, keys in hand. Every time the floor creaked, every time the pipes groaned, he flinched. The next morning, still shaken, he looked up Ash Grove Forest online just to make sense of what happened. And that's when his blood ran cold. The preserve closed every night at 8 p.m. No camping, no fires, no overnight access. Ever. He hadn't stumbled into a weird late-night campsite. He'd been lured. Someone, whoever that man was, Shad, set it up, lit the fire, blocked the exit. He'd watched Ethan on the map. He knew he'd come. And worst of all, no one knew where he was. If Ethan hadn't run, if he'd hesitated just a moment longer, no one would have found him. And no one would have even known where to start looking. Most nights, the building felt more like a bunker than a workplace. Kyle Morgan pulled into the gravel lot at 9:58 p.m., headlights cutting through the fog that clung to the tree line just beyond the fence. The data center sat Alanino neighbors, no foot traffic, just concrete, wires and woods. It was supposed to be an easy job. Sit in a locked room, watch the screens. If something dropped offline, reboot it. That's it. And tonight started just like any other. He ran a quick systems check, green lights across the board, then settled in at his desk, opened Netflix, and pressed play. Outside, the wind pressed against the building like it was trying to get in. But Kyle was used to that. What he wasn't used to was the feeling that came next. That subtle shift in the air, like the building had noticed him. Kyle leaned back in the chair, the soft glow of the monitors casting faint reflections against the glass. Everything checked out. Systems were stable. No flags, no anomalies, just silence and the steady hum of servers behind thick concrete. This was routine, and he usually liked it that way. But tonight, something felt different. The peace wasn't comforting, it was too complete. The stillness in the room felt expectant, like the air itself was holding its breath. He clicked open Netflix on his laptop, trying to shake the creeping tension. Anything to break the silence. But halfway through the episode, he realized he hadn't heard a single sound from the building. No pops, no creaks, no rattling pipes. It was like the whole place had gone still, just to listen. Kyle paused the video. Saturday up straighter. He didn't know why, but he felt like he was being watched. At 12:32 a.m., a soft chime echoed from Kyle's monitor. One system had dropped offline. Server Bay 4 far back in the storage wing. That almost never happened. Kyle grabbed his badge and flashlight, pushing through the door that led to the long corridor of humming server racks. Cold air wrapped around him like a warning. He followed the blinking red light at the far end. When he reached the last aisle, his steps slowed. The power cable was lying on the ground, not loose, not halfway hanging. It had been pulled out clean, sharp, like someone meant to do it. He stared for a moment, then crouched down, reconnected it, and hit the reboot switch. The server hummed back to life, but Kyle didn't move right away, because behind the quiet whirring, he thought he heard a second set of footsteps. Not ahead, behind him. Kyle made his way back toward the control room, footsteps echoing in the corridor of steel and concrete. Then slam. A heavy somewhere in the distance shut hard. The sound echoed like thunder in the empty building. He froze mid-step. That door wasn't near him, and no scheduled staff were supposed to be on site tonight. He waited, ears straining for anything more. Nothing. Just the low, constant hum of machines. Probably just pressure in the pipes. Maybe an old door catching the draft. These buildings always made weird noises, right? Still, something about it felt off. Not mechanical. Deliberate. Kyle shook his head and kept walking, trying to push it down. But even as he re-entered the control room and sat back in his chair, the silence felt heavier now, like the building was listening. About 20 minutes later, Kyle had almost convinced himself everything was fine. He'd put his show back on, leaned back in his chair, tried to forget the weird door slam. Then footsteps. Fast. Sharp. Just outside the office door. He muted the laptop. The sound had stopped, but his heart was already racing. He stood up, opened the door slowly, and found nothing. The hallway was empty. Still. But at the far end, a door was closing. Not slamming this time. Just gently swinging shut, like someone had slipped through it seconds earlier. Kyle walked toward it, each step echoing louder than the last. His flashlight beam bounced off the walls, jittery in his unsteady grip. He reached the door, pushed it open. It led into a smaller corridor. Office rooms, all unlit, all quiet. He stepped inside. The silence felt like it was waiting. "Hello?" Kyle's voice barely echoed down the hallway. No answer. Just rows of darkened office doors, closed like mouths in the dark. He took a few cautious steps forward, flashlight trembling in his hand. Fenslum. The door to his left burst open. A man lunged out. Kyle barely registered what he saw: a figure in dark clothing, face obscured, hair long and messy. No words, no expression, just motion. Pure, sudden motion. Kyle turned and ran. The man gave chase, heavy boots pounding behind him. Kyle didn't look back. He didn't scream. He didn't think. He just ran through corridors, past flickering lights, breath catching in his throat. He wasn't trying to fight, wasn't trying to hide. He just wanted out. And the only thing more terrifying than the footsteps behind him was the thought that the man had been in there the entire night. Kyle burst through the fire exit, lungs heaving, sweat clinging to his skin despite the cold night air. He didn't stop until he reached the far edge of the parking lot, then dialed 911 with trembling hands. "Someone's in the building," he gasped. "He chased me. I don't know who, just hurry." The cops arrived fast, guns drawn, flashlights sweeping every corner of the building. They searched for nearly 40 minutes. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no security alarms triggered. Whoever it was, they were gone. One officer suggested maybe the guy slipped out the back. Another said he could have darted into the woods behind the facility. But Kyle knew better. That man had been inside, somewhere, watching, waiting. And the scariest part wasn't that they didn't catch him. It was the realization that he'd never made a sound. A week later, the company launched an internal investigation. They wouldn't say much, just that nothing appeared stolen, and everything was secure. But Kyle couldn't shake the feeling. The unplugged server? Maybe the intruder kicked it by accident while sneaking around. Or maybe he unplugged it on purpose, to draw Kyle down there, to make him vulnerable. He went back for one more shift, then quit the job entirely. He couldn't be in that building alone again. Not after realizing the terrifying truth. Whoever that was had probably been inside the whole time. Long before Kyle ever walked in. No alarms, no broken locks, just silence. The kind of silence that hides in air vents, under desks, behind doors you never open. And the worst part? Kyle never saw his face. Because some things don't need faces to be watching. If you've ever experienced something strange like this, or if you've got a story that still keeps you up at night, I want to hear it. Drop your story in the comments, or send it my way. Maybe yours will be the next one I share here. And if you enjoyed tonight's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss what comes creeping in next. Thanks for watching. And whatever you do tonight, don't ignore the silence.